The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? But can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
And hello, party people. Welcome inside to a wonderful and exciting Friday episode of Running Point, brought to you once and always by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Gonna do what I always do, put them in the top right-hand corner of the screen so you know where to go if you're in the market for a new or used vehicle. Make sure to head on down to Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. They go the extra mile for you. We try to do the same here on this show every single day, and we will continue to do so today. One of the great shows that we have for you, it's Friday football, which means it's week 10. Last week of the regular season. For some of these teams last week, they'll be able to play. For others, they're fighting for a playoff spot, and some teams are just fighting to take momentum into an already secured playoff spot. There are still conferences on the line as well. It's going to be a fun Friday night, fun week 10, as we are finally at the end of the regular season. It feels like just yesterday we were talking week 1, getting ready for football, doing coaches previews and team previews and a lot of that fun stuff. And here we are getting ready to do that for basketball and getting ready for wrestling as well, with the fall winter sports coming up, with the fall sports winding down. Can't believe it. What we're also going to do today, we have a player profile to feature as we continue to go the extra mile by featuring players and shining a spotlight on them. It's Kean Hartley, the running back senior from Columbiana. We'll feature a player profile with him a little bit later on in the show. And we're also going to, of course, recap last night's action. We won't forget about the tournament stuff that went on last night, and we're going to start with that. Let's go to the scoreboard. Brought to you, as always, by Burnett Pools, Spas, and Hot Tub. Going to put it on full screen there so you can see what I see. Burnett Pools, Spas, and Hot Tubs, the presenting sponsor of the YSN scoreboard. What a tool this is for YSN fans, whether you're at a game or maybe you're watching one of our broadcasts and you don't want to get away from your screen for too long during a commercial break. It's a quick, easy way to get live updated scores every night on the YSN scoreboard. Presented by Burnett Pool Spas and Hot Tubs. A lot of people behind the scenes put in some work to get this scoreboard done. Shout out to Chase Hartman and Ryder Dye, the main two that do it, but I know Steve Leslie and Quinn and Pushkar and Chris Sigler also do a good job making sure these are all updated for you. So want to give a little bit of a props to our scoreboard team as we hop into the scoreboard from last night and see what went down. Thursday night, tournament volleyball. We'll do the first 3 columns and then we'll move on to the last one when we're done. Fitch gets the win over Brush. This was no problem at all for Fitch. They brush away the competition. Pun was absolutely intended there. They get the win 3-0. You have Warren JFK falling to Campbell Memorial. The Red Devils punched their first ever ticket to districts as a volleyball program. Congratulations to Campbell Memorial. They have absolutely earned this trip, and they are going to districts for the first time. Tyler Allen has done a great job with those girls. Hey, shout out to Newton Falls and all the great people over there. They get the win. They're moving on to districts. They beat Wyndham 3-0. Got some stats for this one. that we're going to share because Newton Falls definitely had a great day. Want to thank Coach Baker from Newton Falls for sending us the stats. Danny Drake, 27 assists for the Tigers. Lauren Burvich, 20 service points, 10 digs. How about Jada Blutcher? 11 kills for her to lead the offense. And then a double-double from Tori Fanton as she had 17 service points and 12 digs. Newton Falls advances to the district semifinal where they will play Western Reserve Tuesday, and that game will be in Columbiana High School, as those two teams are part of the Division IV Columbiana District. Also want to share some stats for that Camel game, and I want to thank Tyler Allen for always reporting stats from his team. Let's see, Syra Cross had 2 aces, so did Alicia Rudolphi. Kendall Brunn led them in kills with 12. Mylena Williams had 8. Syra Cross had 4. In the blocks category, Kendall Brunn with 2. Angelise Diaz with 2. Carla Ramirez Ortiz, 29 assists. And then Diggs, Syra Cross with 7. And Angelise Diaz with 6. Move on to Crestview. They got the 3-set win over Beechwood. No problems there. We knew Crestview would have an easy time with their sectional games, and they absolutely did. They win in 3. West Branch goes to Kenston and beats Ursuline by the final of 3-1. West Branch advances to the district semifinals, which are actually closer to West Branch than Kenston was. You go all the way to Kenston to play a local team, but they battled through adversity. They lost set 1, won the next 3 to win 3-1. Southern Local ends the Cinderella story of Jackson Milton. They win 3-0 over the Blue Jays and avoid the upset. Garrettsville Garfield, probably the game of the night, honestly. They fall in a really tough one to Dalton. Back and forth match in Crestview, but Garfield some mistakes in the 5th set. They had all the momentum. They won the 4th set 25-22. But then, that 5th set, you can't come back from a tough start. You don't have the time. It's only to 15. And Garfield absolutely just made a couple of too many mistakes in that 5th set. Gave Dalton enough of a cushion that they were able to win. Final score of that 5th set was 15-7. And it kind of evened out after Dalton took a pretty big lead. And then Garfield was going blow for blow for them. But at that point, Garfield could not afford to trade points. They had to get a rally. They could not. So props to Dalton for being able to keep Garfield at bay and bounce back from losing the 4th set that could have won them the match and getting momentum in the 5th. Because a lot of times in high school, I would say, like, I'm just picking this number out of the air, but maybe 75-80% of the time, the team that wins set 4 to force a set 5 usually wins the match. And last night, it was not that case. It's hard to bounce back from that kind of momentum when you feel like you had it won and then team comes back and forces a 5th. It's hard to gather momentum after that situation. Dalton did a good job, so congratulations to the Bulldogs. Western Reserve, an easy win over Lowville. 3rd time was not the charm for the Rockets, as Western Reserve gets the straight set victory to advance to the district semifinals. We go into boys soccer. Camel, they fall to Warren JFK. A kind of a slow start for the Eagles. They had some time off, and remember, they ended the regular season with a loss to Lake Center Christian. So they had a loss, and they had a big layover. So you could tell first 10 minutes or so of this game, they were just kind of shaking the rust off. But once Nick Ryan hit one hit off the head within the 12-minute mark, everything started to open up for JFK, and the floodgates were unstoppable for Camel. They lose 6-0 for Warren JFK. Big matchup on Tuesday. This sets up JFK versus South Range in the district semifinal. Can't wait for that one. Columbiana gets the win over Middle Ridge, 3-1, the final score. Clipper boys moving on. How about Newton Falls? Their volleyball team won, and their boys soccer team also gets the win. A great night for Newton Falls. Great people down there in in Tiger Country, and they get a win on the boys soccer field 2-1. Crestview, they fall in a tough one to Champion 3-2, a very hard-fought battle between two teams that are so familiar with each other in that MVAC grade tier. Champion gets the slight edge 3-2 in a 1-goal victory. South Range takes care of East Palestine 11-0, the final score there. Beechwood all over Liberty, the final score there for that one 8-0. So Beechwood gets a little bit of revenge for their volleyball team and gets a win. Girls soccer, we had a couple of games. Division 1, Boardman went down to Hoover and got the win. That's 2 straight road victories for the Spartans as they win 3-2 over North Canton Hoover to advance further in the district tournament. Howland falls in shootouts to Glen Oak, and the final score there was 2-1 de facto. That's what it says on the bracket, but when you go to shootouts, it's tied at 1 after 2 overtimes, and you just take penalty shots. So Glen Oak wins the shootout round, and they knock Howland out, a tough one for the Tigers. What a great season Howland had. And then Streetsboro was able to beat Struthers 5-0 in girls soccer as well. And then we have regular season volleyball from PA Mohawk. Excuse me, there. Mohawk beat Beaver Falls 3-0. Let's scroll over to this final column over here. We'll start back up at the top with volleyball. We saw Mentor take down Lakeside. The Dragons season comes to an end, but a great fight against Mentor. They were able to take a set 3-1. Mentor gets the win. And then Edgewood gets the win to advance to a district semifinal. They beat Field 3-0. So Edgewood is moving on. On the boys soccer, a couple more to get through on this last column. Badger gets the win over Pymatuning Valley 4-1, the final score there. And then it is United that gets the win over Matthews 8-0. The Eagles blank the Mustangs. And United, we all expect them to make a deep tournament run, and they not slowing down against a lesser opponent in Matthews. They cruise to that victory, 8-0, the final score there. So that's your recap of tournament time on Thursday. Half of the districts are set. We will have more sectional finals tomorrow, ranging in different start times. Some of them start at 1, some of them start at 4. One district semifinal, I believe, starts at 6. So make sure to check those OHSAA brackets for your start times. We will have Wellsville and Lisbon on the network, thanks to wonderful sponsors getting their games on. So we'll have those two taken care of for you. And going to be a fun time for tournament volleyball. After Saturday, we will have our districts completely set in divisions 1 through 4. So that's going to be a fun time on Saturday. A lot of good matchups. We'll go over that a little bit later on the show. But for now, what we're going to do, we're going to take our commercial break. When we come back, we're going to play a player profile with Kean Hartley. We will then dive into week 10 and talk about all the great matchups that we have going on a Football Friday. All of that coming up and more on Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
21 News delivers the news as it happens, using the latest technology from where it happens.
Live here outside the Mahoney County.
On air, online,
Wednesday afternoon weather update.
Very dangerous.
and on the 21 News social media platforms.
I'm on the road right now.
21 News, the Valley's only locally owned source for trusted news since 1953.
Craftsmanship to us is 60 years of pride and dedication.
Passed down from generation to generation.
The hardwood floors that your kids take their first steps on.
The solid wood doors you quietly close at night.
The things we create day in and day out are the products that end up turning your house into a home.
At Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, uncompromising quality and craftsmanship built our business.
And it will keep us moving forward for generations to come.
Going the extra mile at Greenwood Chevrolet means we want to take care of the community that takes care of us too.
And we have to work together always. And that's how you stay in business for 40 years.
You know, I love being a helper because when I help somebody, it makes me feel good.
It means a lot that I can make a difference in others' lives.
So I will do everything I can and just being there for them every step of the way.
I want them to know within the first 5 minutes that they could depend on me. That's what going the extra mile means, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Before the lights come on, before the workday begins, before a long day is ended, or it's time to have fun. It all starts with the people at Joe Dickey Electric. From replacing a light fixture in your home to building a substation for your business, no job is too big or too small. The people of Joe Dickey Electric power them all. Joe Dickey Electric, over 60 years of powering the Mahoning Valley.
Welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you as always by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. They go the extra mile for you. We do the same. We do it every day on this show. Try to follow their lead. And one of the ways we do that is sharing player profiles with you. We have a good one for this Friday-themed football-themed Friday, I should say, here on Running Point. Kean Hartley, the senior running back from Columbiana, a great interview with this young man. He is so talented. He is a wrecking ball too, man. Talk about a football player that likes contact. No one better. They'll use him for short yardage on every single situation. There was a game earlier this year where he had like 35 yards and 4 touchdowns because it was just, hey, we're inside the 2. Let's just give the ball to Kean Hartley. He'll barrel his way into the end zone. That is the most Jerome Bettis stat line you could ever have in your life because he was known for those kind of games where he wouldn't get a lot of yards, but every time they would need a touchdown, let's just go to the bus. He'll truck it right through for us. And that's Kean Hartley in a nutshell. So here is Columbiana senior captain and running back and middle linebacker, by the way, named the defensive MVP last year on the team. So don't forget about his defense. Kean Hartley from Columbiana. I hope you enjoy this interview. Anthony Hartwig here with a Columbiana football player profile. I am joined by our latest Baird Brothers Big Dog of the Valley winner, Kean Hartley. Kean, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you for having me. This is the blessing.
Yeah, you got it. We've been wanting to have you for a while, and you've been just killing it. One of my first questions is about the latest Baird Brothers Big Dog of the Valley win. I mean, when you see everyone come out and vote for you and get you enough votes to win big dogs, and you do need a lot of votes to win big dogs, by the way, a lot of people vote for that.
Yeah.
What's that mean to you to see like tangible proof that this community really backs you up?
Man, I think Columbiana is one of the best towns in the nation. You know, we just have the best people, and to know that they got my back and I can rely on them for not only just for stuff like this, but say I ever need help, you know, I can always trust my hometown to do something for me.
I think more than not, more players than most really shine that big dog mentality more than you. I mean, you are a big dog. And one of the things that makes your running style so awesome to watch is you can have a game where you only have 30, 35 yards, but you have 4 touchdowns. What's it like to be the guy that is called on for the short yardage situations? They know that you can really, you know, be that physical type runner. What's that been like for you?
You know, I've always had the mentality of I'd rather run people over than juke them because I think that's just more fun. I like contact. And to know that Coach Reich and the other coaches trust me, it puts a chip on my shoulder to really pound it into the end zone.
You kind of went viral last week. I know there was a penalty called on this play, but you pulled the Troy Polamalu. You just jumped right over the line. Talk us through that, kind of what it was like to see that, and whether it was a penalty or not. You have it on tape, and you'll always be able to show that to everyone as far as you go.
You know, I was watching film all week. I know their snap count, so I was like, before the play, you could see me like walk up and back up a little bit. I was trying to time it. And I saw that hand move, and I just went over, and somehow I luckily got the kid. And if I didn't, Coach Bay would have killed me, but it worked out in the end. But it was still a penalty, but now I got it for life.
Let's talk about this football team. You know, the first 3 weeks we were watching Columbiana, and they were right there. You know, you were a couple of plays away from winning a lot of the games that you lost this season. What were some of the conversations and attitude that this team had to stay the course and to not let that start of the year define what you guys could do this year?
It was just the comeback mentality. It was like week 1, Lovo lost by 1 point. Week 2, you know, lost by touchdown, and then going into Western Reserve. Western Reserve played a really good game, and I give them all the credit. But we really didn't play up to our full potential. So going into, you just had to get together.
How cool is it as a part of this team to know that after that start, you have worked your way back for a chance to get into the playoffs this week? I mean, what's that say about this team's, like you said, comeback mentality and the grit that this team has?
I mean, we all know Coach Holmes walks in the locker room and it's like, we have that underdog mentality every day, and it just gets us going. And I really do think we play better when we have a chip on our shoulder.
Yeah, I mean, it's been that way for Columbiana for a long time. What do you think it is about this program that builds that attitude, no matter what kids in the locker room?
I mean, we have a lot of alumni come back, and then we have the big man in front and Coach Spate. He's been there forever. And he brings a lot of his guys back, and they come in, they talk to us, they tell us what it means to be a Clipper.
And let's talk about Coach Spate. It's a legend, a bona fide legend in Columbiana. Like you said, he's been there forever. There are probably people that are 40 years old that can tell you how much Coach Spate meant to them playing football. What's it mean to have a guy that is just so drenched in Columbiana tradition coaching you?
It's awesome because not a lot of people can say they have a coach that's almost coached their dad. You know, my dad graduated in '86. He came a little bit after, but he coached against my dad. My dad knew him before, and it's amazing to have just a mentor that has been through so many kids and has seen so many different personalities and all that. So he gets the gist of who you are and what you're here for.
If you had to describe Coach Spate's coaching philosophy in a sentence, how would you describe it?
I don't even know. Intense and preaching discipline is the best way I would describe it.
What were some of your first interactions with him? I mean, obviously, you probably knew him even before you got into the high school football program. What were some of the first times you got to really meet and interact with Coach Spate and really get your first impressions of the guy?
6th grade, going in and I had a rough middle school stretch where I was the short, fat kid. And I played a running back in 7th grade. And I was slow as molasses. So first thing he said was, "You used to having your hand in the dirt, Hartley." And that was my first interaction. It's been true love ever since.
Hey, you still can get your hand in the dirt every now and then. Let's talk about the development. Like you said, you met him in 6th grade, and now here you are, a senior in high school. What do you think have been some of the ways that you've grown the most as a player since then?
Definitely growing taller helped me a lot. Until sophomore year, I was under 5'8". I was 5'6" freshman year. Those growth spurts, and then just being in the weight room and having coaches that push me in the weight room. And that's just the biggest part of football is that off season.
You don't get away with being a guy that likes contact without getting in that weight room and putting a lot of work into it. What's your favorite kind of weight room circuit that you go through?
My favorite definitely has to be the cleans. That's what I beat out. Bryce Evan, Jason Martin are out here deadlifting 600 pounds. So I'm a little weaker than them in that aspect, but I could really beat them up on the power cleans. So it makes me feel good about myself.
You gotta get competitive with those guys in some way, shape, or form. The one thing about weight room is there are days where I'm sure you're not feeling it, right? It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
What pushes you through those days to get you, into that moment, into that mental state where you have to push through those days?
Coach Bates' motivation before the lifts, and then Another one is, I don't know if you know this, but the number 6 has been passed down through generations. So starting out with Jake Ward, and he's been a really big motivator for me. And I definitely have to give him a shout out on that because he'll tell me when I'm slacking. And then my dad pushes me a lot. He was one when I was younger, had me out back in our yard doing ladder drills. So that's definitely how I get through it. I think about my family and then the people who are counting on me.
With that number 6 being passed down, what's it mean to you to be able to wear it and to be able to represent that number every night?
I have a lot of pride in it. You know, Jake was first team All State. X was on All State. It was just, it's pretty cool, and I just want to live up to that standard every time I'm on the field. And then Philly was a great player.
Number or not, you also get to represent the Columbiana Clippers. You get to represent that school system, those colors. What kind of gives you pride in being able to do that every Friday night as well?
Feeling the community behind me every Friday night. I mean, winning big dogs huge because so many people have to vote for you, like you said. And then, you know, Columbiana's been a big part of my life because, I don't know, my dad went here. He graduated in '88. He was a captain. And then he really showed me what it meant to be a Clipper.
Let's talk about those Friday night lights. A lot of players tell us there's no feeling like it, and they can't even quite describe what they go through on a Friday night. What about you? What makes Friday night lights so special for you, and a feeling that you might never get back in life?
I know I'll never get the feeling of nervousness before the game because I put a lot of pressure on myself before the games, and then as we get closer to kickoff, then I'm out on that special teams. It just turns into confidence.
A lot of people say those nerves go away the first play. Is that like that for you, or does it take a little bit of time to get those butterflies out of your stomach?
It's first time you hit somebody, and then the wheels just start turning and turning and turning. And then the game's just so fast that you don't have time to be nervous by the time the first play is over.
You got that. The game has sped up quite a bit. Even since you were a freshman, I think the game of football has changed a little bit at this level. What have you seen from the game of football? How has it changed a lot since you were a freshman?
Definitely in the ways teams want to throw that ball now. Our league was kind of known as the smash mouth, running, and now you're seeing those teams like United that were known as running. They're trying to air it out a little bit, and they do a great job at it. All the schools in our league do a great job at throwing the ball, so that's definitely different.
Okay, that EOAC is still tough-nosed, and there's still plenty of teams that love to just be physical. I'm going to put you on the spot there and say, who are some players that you have had the privilege and feel like you are honored to be able to compete against? And, just you love the way they play football. You wish they were on your team, and every time you play them, you're in for one of those fights.
Definitely got to put Courtney on there. Luke, he's a very talented kicker and very talented player. And then who else we played? Hinchcliffe from Lisbon was tough and only a sophomore. X-Line was tough from Southern. I just forget who else we played.
It all washes together after a while, doesn't it, man? Next, it's all about the next game, right? One of the things I love about technology that we've built is you can watch film anywhere, right? So you have the iPad, you can bring up film anywhere. It's not like the old days where you'd have to sit in a classroom and watch the projector, and that was the only time that you could watch film. Where's your favorite spot, or what's your favorite time of day and spot to go and watch film and study the next team that you're playing?
Second period, Clipper Graphics, Mrs. Misos room. That's the best place to watch film. Specifically.
What makes it such a great place?
My boys Bryce, Jason, and Branson are in there, so we all get on one computer and form this circle. Half the time we get yelled at because we're yelling about the film, but it's just a good time in there.
Let's get to know you a little bit off the field too. Obviously, you put so much of your time and effort into football, but what kind of things interest you outside of the sport?
I like fishing. I fish a lot. I just like hanging out with my friends, and then my girlfriend Carly. I hang out with her a lot.
What's the biggest fish you've ever gotten?
It was a 5-pounder
Nice.
bass. I know it's not. I'm gonna get flamed on here for it's kind of small for claiming to be a fisherman, but it was a pretty cool experience.
You got a lot of life to live before you can get a bigger
Yeah,
fish. You know what I mean? You got a lot
yeah.
of time. Don't rush it, man. 5
Oh yeah,
pounds is a lot more than a lot of people have caught. I'll tell you that much.
yeah.
When you think about team chemistry and bonding with these teams and the locker room of a football team is such a brotherhood, what's it been like spending 4 years building with these kids, not just on the field, but obviously what like we're talking about off the field, being able to build the relationships you have with your teammates?
I'd say it's been these guys are my best friends, and there's nothing that could change that. If I ever have a problem when I'm older, I know I'm calling my group of seniors because I know they'll always have my back. And from laughs to losing seasons like last year, we've really, and most teams it would like pull them apart, but we stuck together and said, okay, we're going to get through this. We're going to do this. We're going to change this culture.
What is your favorite thing to do with your teammates off the field to kind of build that chemistry?
We usually either have a fire at my house or we just kind of run around, or we go to the locker room. We play Xbox up on the big projector.
I was
Coach Bay
waiting for
might
the
be
video.
mad to find that out.
I was waiting for the video games.
Yeah, definitely.
Everyone's got to get on the sticks. What are the go-to games for you guys?
We actually only play one, and that's Gang Beast. It's like this weird like game that you like just try to throw your friends off of stuff.
Who's the best
Best
at
way
it?
I can sure. Jason, but I don't want to admit it. Branson thinks he's the best,
You
but
got to give him some props, man.
Jason Martin, and I kind of hate playing video games with him because I'm definitely the worst. I'm awful at video games.
Can't be good in everything, man.
Yeah.
When you think about your future, as something we have to talk about because you're a senior, graduating from Columbiana in the spring, what kind of things await you after high school?
I hope that I could play somewhere, but if opportunity doesn't really show itself, I'm also fine with going to college, getting a 4-year degree, and then going and working a job.
When you're looking at places that you might be able to play, what kind of things would you be looking for? What kind of things would pop your eye and say, this is a place that I could call home and I could play football for the next 4 years?
Definitely a place that's close to home. I don't like going far. I get really homesick. Has the same type of mentality or like culture as Columbiana, discipline. We're gonna do this way, the way it's supposed to be done, and do it like that every single time.
Imagine as long as they let you hit people, you'll be a happy camper.
Yeah.
Whatever football team you're playing on. Kean, I want to give you the time to thank the support system that you have, the people in your life that have your back no matter what. However many people you want to thank, however much time you want to spend doing it, I want to give you the time to shine a light on those people now.
Alrighty. I just want to thank Branson, Bryce, Jason, Bush, and Noah, and Cameron Clancy for always being there for me and having my back. That's my group of seniors. Then definitely my mom and dad. They've always been there, and my Nana. She's been. I'm sure you saw her comment on the YSN post of the Big Dog of the Valley. Shirley Kerr, she was on there. Then all my coaches, specifically Coach Spate, Coach Holmes, Coach Reish, Coach T. Reish, and then Coach Furr and Coach Audier. I'll add you in there. And then just the people that have been influences onto my life, and they'll know who they are.
Kean throwing people some bones. I like it.
Yeah.
We want to thank you for giving us the time tonight talking about your senior year, and want to congratulate you for everything you've already accomplished. Wish you the best of luck this week, especially. I know it's a big week for you guys. Thank you again for the time, and we'll see you again real soon.
Thank you.
Kean Hartley from Columbiana. What a great leader. What a great senior running back. I mean, I've been watching that kid play for a while, and to go through the adversity that Columbiana football has gone through, one of the parts of that interview I liked was talking about that and saying, hey, we wanted to go out on a good streak. We wanted to make sure that we leave our mark on this Columbiana program. They have the opportunity tonight, if they win, to clinch their first playoff berth since 2017, which, if you do the math, that would be the first playoff berth of those seniors' careers. So we definitely wish Kian and those Columbiana Clippers seniors the best of luck as they fight for a playoff spot tonight. Perfect segue into the games tonight, and let's go into the Burnett Pool Spas and the hot tubs and spas, whatever order you want to go into. On the scoreboard, let's pop into Friday down here at the bottom. If you never used our scoreboard before, the dates are on that bottom line, so you just click on the date that you want to look at. October 20th is today, and let's see what matchups we got going on. First, Fitch and Warren Harding. This game always has implications. Today it does too. The winner could earn a spot to host, and it's still mathematically could work out that this could be a rematch in the playoffs if things, fall into order. And how many times have we seen that? How many times have we seen Austintown Fitch play Warren Harding in week 10 and then play them in the playoffs the next week, and whoever won that week 10 matchup ends up hosting the 8-9 seed? It's just uncanny how much this matchup tends to always mean at the end of the season. This year, no different. They're both trying to host. They're both pretty locked in, secure to a playoff spot, and they both want to take momentum into the postseason. Should be a fun one from Mollenkoff Stadium as Fitch takes on Warren Harding. And that's a rivalry next. Canfield and Boardman doing battle. Boardman wanted to play spoiler a little bit. Canfield has a lot going for him right now. Boardman, the opposite direction. They've been competitive. They've been scrappy. They've been hardworking. They just haven't been able to find the results. Man, would it be a great night for Boardman tonight if they're able to do that at home against the Cardinals. Cheney, who's going to travel to East, a Youngstown rivalry. I think these two are pretty evenly matched. Two very physical football teams that like to control the line of scrimmage. Going to see what happens there. St. Ed's going to Hoban. I would say this is going to be a close game, but every time we say that about Hoban, it turns out to be a Hoban-dominated matchup. They have not had one game this season that has been one possession, and only one game that has been two possessions. Everything else has just been Hoban blowing people out of the water. So no disrespect to St. Ed's. We all know how good they are, but until someone gets close to the Knights, I'm not going to pick anyone to get close to the Knights. This one, I'm going to say Hoban Runaway, because that's what every game this year has been. Prove me wrong. We'll go to Conneaut as they are traveling to Madison, a big opportunity for the Spartans to bounce back from a pretty disappointing showing in Week 9. Conneaut needs a win to secure some good playoff seeding. Crestwood, a very good team going to Grand Valley. This is going to be a tough one for the Mustangs for sure. Girard and Niles, I mean, this NEH's crazy. I feel like it's like the SEC of high school football. Every game's good. Every game you could say is pretty evenly matched. And even though Niles has had a tough stretch the last couple weeks, them at home is a different animal. Girard, I think it's evenly matched. I don't pick the games, thank God. I let the Power Hour Super Show do the picking. I just talk about them. Antoine Gardner, and then Mr. Sims for Girard, both really good players. It's gonna be a fun one in Niles. Gonna be a fun one. South Range can earn the outright NEA championship with a win over Hubbard or a Poland loss as they host the Eagles tonight in their home regular season finale. They will surely host a playoff game as well. The Raiders right now sit at the 2 seed in Division 5, Region 17, in a battle with Perry Pirates, as they're sitting at number 1. Jefferson goes to Geneva tonight, as that one going to be a tough task for Jefferson. We've seen Geneva and what they're able to do to some YSN teams this year. A very strong football team. You can't count out the Eagles. Jefferson's having a tough season. It's going to be a tall order for the Falcons. I'm really interested in this one. LeBray going to Crestview. Every week, I say the same thing about LeBray. It just depends on what team shows up. We've seen LeBray look very, very good, and we've seen LeBray not look that good at nights. So, team that's fighting inconsistency, if the right team shows up, they can absolutely go on the road and get this win. But Crestview has played really, really well over the last 4 or 5 weeks, despite the loss to Garrettsville Garfield last week. You got to throw that out the window. I think everyone at this point is losing to Garrettsville Garfield. And Crestview showed early they weren't scared. It was just another one of those games where Garfield had the ball bounced their way early, took some momentum, and just ran with it and never took their foot off the gas pedal. But Crestview tied the game up at 7 early, and they really took their first drive, ran down the field against Garfield. If that Crestview plays consistently through 4 quarters, this is going to be a really fun matchup in Columbiana County. Go to Columbiana County up to Ashtabula County, Edgewood hosting Lakeside. Now, if last week didn't happen, I would say this is, an Edgewood game where they have an advantage on paper. But we saw what Lakeside did to Conneaut last week. And it's like, oh, maybe Lakeside means a little bit of business, right? We're going to have to see if that defense of the Dragons can stop a different style offense in Edgewood. Edgewood is much more spread out than Conneaut, of course. So what can Lakeside do to slow down the Warriors offense, and can they play as well as they did last week against Conneaut? That's going to be a really, really fun one in Warrior country. Lakeview travels to Beaver Local as the Beavers trying to take momentum into this playoffs. They've had an inconsistent season as well. Roller coaster year for Beaver Local, where they've had some big wins. They've also had some tough losses. I think the same can be said about Lakeview. They've had some really big wins. Probably their best game of the year is a loss. You could argue their South Range game, they played so well. Only lost by 6 to the Raiders, who have been beating up teams like it's their job in the last 5 weeks of the season. So you go into Lakeview and you say, well, they've only lost to South Range by 6. No moral victories in football. We all know that. But at the same time, you got to think that Lakeview feels pretty dang good about that game. Hasn't gone their way since. They do have that win over Hubbard, 28-14. Coach might argue that since they won, that's their best performance. But Lakeview's got a good team that is buying into the culture, and we see that program take another step this year into the right direction. But a tough one tonight in Beaver Country, as they'll try to travel to Beaver Local and get the win. Austin Klein will have something to say about that, as he's an incredible player for the Beavers, of course. Southern Local hosting Latonia as they try to stay in that first place tussle for the EOAC. Right now they are fighting with United, both with one loss on the year inside the conference. McDonald traveling to Middle Ridge. I think this is going to be a really good one. These two teams really don't like each other. This is a big rivalry. You see a lot of them in Week 10. This one's a big one. I know a lot of people don't, buy into this rivalry as one of the best in the area, but it's definitely inside that school system. They take this one very seriously. I remember when we interviewed Samantha Aulette from the volleyball team earlier this season, and we asked, what's your favorite memory this, or what's the toughest last, like the toughest last moment that you had as a senior? And she said, last time I played McDonald. That's our rival. That's the one we get up for the most. It's quite simply put, it's the one that means the most for Middle Ridge. And this is going to be a big rivalry game for both teams as McDonald travels to Rams. I've been using country a lot today. I'm going to stop that. We're not going to use the word country. We're not going to say any more, mascot country the whole day. That's going to be my promise to you. They go to Middle Ridge, and that's going to be a big rivalry matchup between McDonald and Middle Ridge. Pipatuning Valley goes to Windham tonight. The Bombers trying to get a big win to end the season, and a great field artwork put together for homecoming as well for Windham. If you haven't seen it, go to our Facebook page and check out the I guess you could say drone views of the Windham football field that they put together this week for their game. Big one in the MVAC Scarlets here. Championship on the line. Springfield versus Lowville. I'm not surprised. Every year it comes down to this one, and yet again, Week 10, we see these two teams fighting for a big spot, playoff seeding on the line, conference standings on the line. There's just a lot of reasons to watch this game on YSN. Eric Hughes is going to have the call, and you better tune in. If you don't, check your pulse at the door. That's my advice for you. Next, we have University School going to Howland. We know how good University School is, so Howland's in for a tough task at home in Week 10. Next one, do we have to say anything more about the Holy War? This is Ursuline Mooney. This is the rivalry, right? This is the biggest rivalry in the area. These two teams don't like each other at all. This is just, they have a whole Spirit Week dedicated to Ursuline Week or Mooney Week, whatever school you're in. This is it. This is the one. This is your Michigan, Ohio State. This is your North Carolina Duke. This is your Yankee Red Sox. This is it, right? This is the one where if you're an Ursuline football player, and this is coming from my own dad who played for Ursuline, like his biggest moment was as a young kid, I got to dress for the Mooney game. Like I got to be a part of that game. He had a lot of great moments as a football player, especially his freshman year when they went undefeated and unscored upon as a freshman football team. But his biggest goal was just, hey, I want to dress for the Ursuline game. That's how serious this rivalry is. Like, I don't care if I play this. Let me dress for the Mooney and Ursuline game. People just want to dress for it. So imagine what it feels like to play in this game. It's going to be awesome. This one taking part in Mooney. So going to be fun. Ursuline Mooney, always a fun time. It's the Holy War. Nothing better than that. Tim Corso will have the call. Columbiana fighting for a playoff spot, but it's not going to be easy. Valley Christian comes into town. They have Deshaun Lindsay, who's just a monster to deal with. And Columbiana, they're going to have to earn their playoff spot, right? But if they win, they're in. That's pretty simple, cut and dry. It would be their first playoff appearance since 2017 if the Clippers are able to win tonight. Lisbon, they will host Wellsville to try to send some momentum into the playoffs. They are locked in with a 7-3 record, but they're still on that fringe of hosting. I think the loss last week really hurt their chances to host. I think they're sitting at like number 12, so they have to get all the way up to 8, which means they would have to win, and they're going to need some help. They're not going to get a lot of points from Wellsville. So Lisbon, you still have some hope for hosting. You're not mathematically out of it to host, but you definitely need some help. But they're in the playoffs, and I think winning this week and getting momentum into the playoffs is big for Lisbon either way. This is a rivalry too. It's Week 10 is rivalry week, West Branch, Salem. And if you're in that school system, it's kind of the same as the Holy War. You just take this game so seriously. You throw records out the window. You throw everything out the window. One of the things about Salem is they will throw everything they have into this game. This is it, right? They're not making the playoffs. This is their last game. It's against West Branch. Let's spoil the party, right? Who cares what we show on film? We're not playing anybody next week. Let's show everything. Let's throw everything. Everything you got goes into this game, right? West Branch is going to have to match that energy. They have to say everything we got. This can't be we're going in to play a 1-win Salem team. Let's lazily walk into it. This has to be, we have to match their energy. We have to play this game as if they're 10-0 or 9-0, I would say. And this game literally decides the EBC. You have to match that attitude. And it's not hard in a rivalry game. This is why dramatic upsets and rivalries are so hard, because you're not going to get your rival to overlook you, right? So if you're struggling and you're playing a team that is as good as West Branch, and this is a rivalry, this is the one game where West Branch, I'm not even concerned the slightest that they're going to look over a 1-win Salem. If they're playing anybody else with 1 win, I'd say, oh, this could be a game where they kind of get a little bit lazy, but it's not going to happen because everyone in that school system has been talking about the Salem game all week. So you're not going to sneak up on your rival, right? So if Salem's going to win, they're going to have to just do it with their best foot forward, right? They're not going to get a lot of silly help from West Branch. And here's another one. Western Reserve, Jackson Milton. My biggest story about this rivalry, and I have one actually, which is surprising, I know, because I'm a South Range grad, and my biggest rivalry stories are usually from Springfield South Range, because that was the big one when I was in high school. But I'm doing a game, basketball boys game. It's the first time I've done the basketball boys. It was a couple years ago for Jackson Milton versus Western Reserve. So I didn't know. I wasn't a part of these communities. I didn't know how big this rivalry was. Doing the basketball game, right? And at the end of the game, Western Reserve wins. And then all of a sudden, they're just celebrating like crazy. And then the gym kind of clears, and they have this like circle in the middle court. I'm like, what's going on? AD brings like this big cardboard box out from the locker room, and I'm like, I guess we better keep the broadcast going because something's happened. And I thought it was like a milestone, or maybe, they I didn't know, but it's a trophy game. Like they have a trophy that will travel with the winner of the second game of the year. No matter who wins the first game, it's just the second game of the year. Whoever wins it between Western Reserve and Jackson Milton gets a trophy, and that was really cool. And I was like, wow, this rivalry means a lot to this community. So we talk about big rivalries. We got a couple of them here tonight, but they're all in that little area right there in our scoreboard. They make a little L. Middle Ridge, McDonald, Ursuline, Mooney, West Branch, Salem, Western Reserve, Jackson Milton. Rivalry night is what it's all about during football season. East Palestine, they're going to travel to United to try to throw a monkey wrench in the EOAC, and boy, would it be a monkey wrench if East Palestine's able to win this game. They scared Valley Christian earlier this year, and I think by now, with all they've been able to do this year, I don't think they're going to sneak up on people anymore. I don't think this is going to be a game where United, overlooks the Bulldogs. I think they know what's on the line. And this is an unfortunate time to play United if you're East Palestine, because you play them in the middle of the season, then you might get them to happen. Like Lisbon got United, a little bit on their worst day. If you get them at the end of the season when they have to win the EOAC, you're just not going to you're not going to get them, looking over you. They're not looking to the playoffs because they have to win the EOAC still. If they had the conference squared up, then maybe you could say, well, they're looking over to the playoffs, but they have a lot in front of them. So if East Palestine's going to get the upset, we said this about Salem, they're going to have to do with their best foot forward. That's just no ifs, ands, and buts about it. Liberty traveling to Campbell Memorial. The Leopards trying to continue their impressive season. I'll tell you, Dwayne and Dewan Moody, both amazing to watch, and they're going to have some fun in Campbell because I think the Red Devils are going to have a tough time slowing them down on the perimeter, especially. Newton Falls, they had a really good night last night with wins on boys soccer and volleyball, both punching tickets further into the postseason. Can their football team end on a high note? They're going into a very struggling champion team. So I think the Tigers have a really good opportunity tonight to end the season on a very positive note in Newton Falls. They're on the road, and on champion side, it's been a tough year, and I've talked about it. They lost so many seniors last year, just trying to find an identity, trying to find a leadership, and it's been tough for champion. But one thing I know is they are so well coached. We've talked to their coach plenty of times on Running Point. He's a friend of the show, and I think, if they get through this together, they stick together and they say, hey, we're just going to get back to work, and come next season. Sometimes seasons like this can pay dividends in the year after because all these kids that are coming in inexperienced have experience now. And the old phrase that I love from Marvel Cinematic Universe, Loki, that he says, I consider experience, right? And I think that works in sports. Champions not winning, they're losing, right? But they're on the field, they're experiencing varsity football, and that's experience right there. Boom, that's all you need. So next year, they're going to have a bunch of experienced kids because they're not graduating a ton of seniors this year. And I think they're going to be just fine if they realize that we went through this for a reason. They stick together. They don't have discord in the locker room. They don't start pointing fingers, any of that stuff. And then come back next year and have a pretty, season back up to the champion par that they've set here in the last couple of years, because that champion program until this point was on a pretty big uptick the last 3 or 4 years. Warren JFK is going to travel the Southeast. I'm interested in this one. JFK's had a tough season with a lot of really good programs on their schedule. But they seem to get better every week, and now they're going into a game where, on paper, a little bit more realistic for JFK. Southeast is good, but they're not the world beaters that they've been playing all year. So JFK with a chance to get some positivity heading into the off season. Brookfield traveling to Garrettsville Garfield. They look to complete an undefeated season in Garfield, and they're going to have to do it against a Warriors team that, after a tough start, has really looked good the rest of the way. Like, you look at this team since week 3, Brookfield has looked pretty dang good. That freshman Rico Smith, boy, is he fun to watch. And we all thought Donovan Pawlowski was going to be a huge loss for the team. Obviously, he was. So were the other seniors that left Brookfield. But when you have a freshman come up in the ranks like Rico, you're in for a good time. This is the big one in the NE8, Struthers versus Poland. Obviously, a lot on the line for both teams. Poland has to win, and if they win and South Range loses to Hubbard, they will share the NE8. So you got to think that that's in the back of their mind, that they're still mathematically alive in the conference, but also playoff seeding, hosting. Struthers, they need this win really bad in playoff seeding. They want to avoid the seed they're at right now. They played really well I'm going to say it again. I've said it every week, but ever since that loss to South Range, where they had the 33-30 lead with 2 minutes left, and the Raiders went down the field and scored with the seconds winding down. So this feels like they had that game, and they lost it in the last minute. And ever since that one, they've responded in the way that you want a championship caliber team to respond. They've blown out everybody since. And good teams. They've dominated. I've been really impressed with Struthers this year. And they have an opportunity to go on the road and get a win against Poland, who only has 1 loss all year, and that's to the conference-leading South Range Raiders. West Geauga going to Orange in Pepper Pike. That'll be a fun one for the Lions, trying to hold off the Wolverines. A winnable game for Orange, I think. East Liverpool going to Weir on the road. We have Mohawk in PA. They're hosting Western Beaver. It's a really cool logo, too, for Western Beaver. And then Edison ends their regular season as they host Indian Creek tonight. And that should be a good opportunity for a final home game for the Wildcats to get a big win. So that's your game. That's your slate for Week 10. All those games found on ysnlive.com/live. Make sure to tune in. Also, it is the last week of the Audible Call. Myself and Mike Ackelson will be down in the athletic studio. And make sure to tune into that. If you want to just flip from game to game to game, that's what we got. And then if you want to watch a game in its entirety, ysnlive.com/live is where you can find it. It'll also be the last week of the Joe Dickey Electric Scoreboard Show. Make sure to tune into that around 10 o'clock. That's a varying start time. It's really dependent on when games start to finish up. But last week for all that, and after tonight, we'll be in the playoff mode. And we will be officially in the postseason for all fall sports, right? So can't wait for that. This is going to be a fun night. Enjoy the night, everybody. Stay dry. I think there's a chance for a little bit of rain tonight. So bring out those umbrellas. Stay dry. Have fun. Tune into the Audible Call. Tune into the games. All of it can be found on ysnlive.com/live. This has been Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in